Welcome to Night City. With Cyberpunk 2077's release date getting pushed back again until November 19th, we were lucky enough to go hands-on with the first 4 hours or so of the game at a recent preview event. And we're here to give you our full impressions. In Night City's huge open world, there's so much to see and explore in the physical and digital realms. Your main goal as protagonist V is getting your hands on a prototype piece of cyberware that holds the key to immortality. But with literally everyone else in town sporting mechanical implants that basically make them superhuman, you're also going to have to enhance, change, and sacrifice your body in order to get it. The main story of Cyberpunk 2077 isn't the be-all and end-all though, and there is so much to do for the edge runner who wants it all. The demo we played consisted of a few missions we've all seen in the Cyberpunk gameplay videos released so far, but we also played through plenty of new content and met new characters not yet seen. Perhaps most importantly, we got the chance to simply exist in Cyberpunk's world, walking and driving the streets of Night City. We explored its neon-lit alleyways, spoke to its inhabitants, looked through our inventory and character development screens, and fantasized about the kind of Cyberpunk hero we'll be after spending hours and hours and hours with Cyberpunk 2077. Because, believe us, we're going to be spending a lot of time with this game.
Alright then. Says he needs a second or two. Go get yourselves drinks or something.
Way ahead of you, viejo. This is it. The heart of Night City. That's it right there. Beating. Hear it?
There's a lot more going on in Cyberpunk 2077 than in The Witcher 3, and it does not feel like that game at all. I mean, that sounds kind of silly and obvious to say, but due to the city and its setting, Cyberpunk 2077 is a lot more like GTA mixed in with Deus Ex Human Revolution. Night City is an overwhelming place, where it's sensory overload everywhere you look. There are no quaint little villages like White Orchard with gentle rolling hills on the horizon. This is one huge, sprawling metropolis where, if you aren't being bombarded with targeted advertising everywhere you look, you're subject to the whims of the numerous corporations and street gangs that run the city. As befits a massively overpopulated dystopian destination, you are surrounded by a lot of people, everywhere, all the time in Night City. Whether you're pushing past them in the street at rush hour, that's every hour here, or having them hammer on the walls of your apartment in the middle of the night. That's no small feat to begin with, but these people also come in all shapes, sizes, and modifications. Hair, in particular in this game, deserves a shout out because it looks pretty great. This is a world obsessed with power, glamour, and ceaseless body modification, and that's reflected in the people that live here. The desperately poor and the ultra-rich live side by side, but everyone answers to the mega corporations and gangs that run the streets. You'll of course meet these gangs yourself, from the Mox and Maelstrom to the Tiger Claws and the Animals, each with their own shady dealings. The only entities worse than them are the corporations, who are, of course, the one true power in Night City.
This is pointless.
Night City is truly a living organism, and to fully flesh out 2077, developer CD Projekt Red created 4 distinct art styles, each with its own identity and history, which reflect the timeline of the city and create the very unique aesthetic of the world. These styles are everywhere you look. Buildings, technology, clothing, and characters. There's the attention-grabbing kitsch aesthetic, which is all about being as in-your-face as possible. There's entropism, which CD Projekt Red describes as design governed by necessity, not aesthetics. It's about durability and survival rather than looking good. Then you have neo-militarism and neo-kitsch. The first is the signature style of corporations. Sleek, cold, powerful. And the second is pure opulence, a look and a lifestyle only available to the mega rich. Character customization in this game is incredibly detailed. There are 30 hairstyles to choose from, for example, and plenty of implants and futuristic facial adornments as well. But aside from the cosmetic, your personality is based around perks which are grouped into trees associated with each of the game's main attribute types: body, reflexes, technical ability, intelligence, and cool, with each of these splitting into sub-branches of available perks. Body, for example, has Street Brawler, Athletics, and Annihilation, with perks allowing you to double your carrying capacity or regenerate health during combat, while technical ability splits into crafting and engineering, allowing you to create clothing or weaponry with mods already installed, or automatically dismantle any junk you pick up. Our current favourite is a cool tree called Cold Blood. It's a bit like Berserk, activating when you reach roughly half health and triggering buffs depending on what else you've unlocked in the tree. It's very much a wildcard scenario. Pretty much everything in your inventory can be modified and augmented, including your body, right down to your circulatory and nervous systems. Body modifications or cyberware is the complete norm for society in Cyberpunk, and V starts off with some basic models. An ocular implant that acts as your HUD, for example.
It's good to see you too, Jack. How you been?
These attributes and perks do far more than simply make you better at fighting. Passing requisite skill checks during missions will open up key choice variations later in your story, and can change the often complicated relationships between fixers, mercenaries, megacorporations, and gangs. Missions can often go completely differently depending on what you bring to the table, and after the dust has cleared, more than once you'll be asking, what could have happened if I'd done or said this instead of that? It feels like that freedom really is the core of the Cyberpunk 2077 experience. Depending on which background story you choose for your character, nomad, street kid, or corporate, your friend and business associate Jackie Wells can be introduced in different ways. We played as a street kid in our demo, and so met Jackie while trying to steal a car because he was attempting to steal it too. It'll be interesting to see how the experience of Night City changes and evolves later in the game, depending on which of the 3 different backgrounds you chose. As a street kid, we know the underbelly of the city intimately. It's a tough life, but it's well suited to opportunists. But we could have been a corporate, starting things off at the complete other end of the scale, living high above the city, mingling with the elite, dressed in fancy suits, and lounging in a stylish apartment. Or we could have begun the game outside the city altogether, as a lone wolf nomad from the barren desert of the Badlands. There are NPC characters exclusive to each life path, and perhaps your relationship with Jackie changes depending on where you came from too. He's already your friend and trusted business partner as a corpo, for example. So we have to wonder, will that alter any meaningful dialogue or choices differently than in a life path where you just met?
Hey, come on, Stance. Give us a break, huh? You lock us up, they'll just jerk off till trial. And then what?
Guess I was wrong.
What's really nice about talking to people in Cyberpunk is, you're free to move around while you're doing it. In fact, the game doesn't lock you into a dialogue scene at all, meaning you could walk away from a conversation rather than have to cancel out of it. Dialogue occurs fluidly, apart from in set scripted moments. Walk up to someone and dialogue choices appear, walk away, and they disappear. It's a nice time-saving mechanic. Another neat little time saver is your mobile phone. You don't need to worry about always going out of your way to visit people in person because you can just video call them instead. Press the D-pad to answer or go into your directory to text. Video calls have dialogue options just like face-to-face conversations, and you can even use the phone to send data and files you need to hand in for a quest, saving yet another journey. It's the world of tomorrow, today.
Not shabby at all. Question's how long it'll last you.
That'll get me to Night City. I'll figure something else out there.
Right.
Another neat little trick is the ability to call your car, much like you could call Roach or indeed any video game horse, and it magically drives up to you wherever you are. Once inside, you can change radio stations by pressing right on the D-pad or left to change camera angle. You can also hijack other vehicles like in GTA, so long as you pass a body attribute threshold. The police may not be impressed if they catch you though, and in fact are often around to give you grief depending on the severity of your crimes. Because there's an entire crime system just like in GTA, where if you run over a load of civilians or chuck a grenade at a group of people having a chat outside your apartment, not that we're speaking from experience here, then you get a wanted status and the police are actively looking for you. Luckily, you can give them the runaround and eventually lose your wanted status entirely if it's low enough. But you can help stop crimes too. The police of Night City simply can't handle everything themselves, and so they incentivize citizens to help with bringing in bounties and stopping random street crimes in progress, which you'll bump into from time to time as you explore. If you're successful, you can earn some sweet, sweet eddies. That's Eurodollars, the currency of Night City, from the police, before turning right around and funneling that cash into your own criminal activities, of course. There are various other side missions you can take on, from bringing down powerful cyber psychos, people who have been overwhelmed by their enhancements, to destroying gang outposts. There are also street stories that you can pick up from fixers, which are a bit like monster contracts in The Witcher 3, in that you're charged with eliminating or incapacitating a target like some notorious ganger.
Don't you know you owe the sheriff a word when you pay his town a visit? To tell him what's brought you here. Maybe even over a cup of coffee.
No need to worry. I won't be staying long.
Didn't answer my question now, did you?
Plan simple. Do nothing odd. Don't get creative.
A new and intriguing feature we got to explore during our hands-on demo were brain dances. These are recordings beamed directly into your brain via a so-called Wreath headset, which lets you replay the recorded memories and emotions of another person. In Cyberpunk 2077, brain dances are the most popular form of entertainment. Unsurprisingly, they're most commonly used for porn. But in V's case, you can manipulate recordings and glitch out of your borrowed body to look around the scene in a sort of detective mode to find clues the other person may have missed. And you can access different layers to inspect the scenario: audio, visual, and thermal, and find different details hidden within each. You can play, rewind, fast forward, you can filter out audio to hear things they didn't, you can look around and scan important objects and people they might not have noticed, and you can turn on thermal imaging to find other hidden details. It's worth noting though that your real body is unconscious and vulnerable as you're doing all this. Probably not wise to stick around for too long then.
Yeah, it's impressive, right? It's too bad most of the BDs we do here are only good for flogging the log.
The combat of Cyberpunk 2077 is reminiscent of Deus Ex Human Revolution, in that you have a combination of options involving shooting, stealth, and hacking, alongside lethal and non-lethal takedowns. As in Hitman, you can hide the bodies of your foes in nearby containers, or if your enemy is standing next to a container to begin with, you can do the old takedown and stash in one swift move. If you're concealed, you can scan an area to mark enemies so that you can see them through objects and track which way they're facing. If they see you, an alertness gauge begins to fill so you have a bit of time to hide again. All familiar stuff we've seen in plenty of games before. But cyberware, which is to say your various body modifications and implants, spice things up a bit, and there are lots to choose from. This being Cyberpunk, there is of course the ability to hack too. Quick hacking seems to be what you do at a distance, whereas hacking is what you do when you're able to actually plug in to something. Hacking an interface by plugging in directly and attempting to upload your own nefarious programs involves playing a minigame based around matching strings of number-letter pairings next to those in a grid. To upload a program, you need to find the correct program character chain on the board, represented by that letter-number combination. By selecting characters from the grid in the same order listed in the program you're trying to upload, the hack will be completed successfully. The catch is, you can't freely select from the grid. Instead, you have to select a pairing on a specific highlighted row or column, which in turn triggers another highlighted row or column to branch off from it. Unsurprisingly, planning your route around the grid becomes the real puzzle.
Watch it!
To quick hack, however, you can scan a room using the left bumper to see what you can interact with, and then press the right bumper to see how you can mess with it. The different programs, called demons, that you save to your cyber deck and upload directly into enemies mean you can force foes to shoot themselves, you can reboot their optics and temporarily blind them, you can simulate SOS signals from their squad members to make them go and check it out, and you can cause their cyberware to overheat so they take thermal damage over time. There's a devilish but very fun array of demons available. But there is of course a trade-off. You can only install a certain number at any one time, and the more powerful the ability, the more memory it will cost you to use it. Memory is basically like mana and replenishes over time. And there's a whole perk tree based around improving and regenerating it. It's going to be a lot of fun to see what people can make of these systems, as there are a lot of different options out there.
Probably took a booster just before. You'll be fine. Got everything set up?
4 hours of playtime is nothing in a game like this. We barely scratched the grimy surface of what Night City has to offer. But we saw enough to know that we simply cannot wait to return for an extended visit later this year, and enough to appreciate that while Cyberpunk 2077 may, superficially at least, resemble GTA more than The Witcher 3, it hides vast networks of detailed role-playing systems under its hood that run much deeper than either of those games. We can't wait to absolutely lose ourselves in them. Alright Chumbo, while we have you here, make sure and subscribe for plenty more Cyberpunk 2077 content coming up on the channel very soon. In the meantime, we roll out fresh gaming content every single day, so you'll have plenty to enjoy until then. Thanks for watching. Bye!
To Night City.
And the afterlife. Ha ha!